For generations, we've worked to keep a simple promise in this country. Americans who work hard their entire lives have earned the right to retire with dignity and security. And that's the promise that my grandparents knew, even though they came of age during the Great Depression. My grandfather would go on to serve in Patton's Army, while my grandmother stayed home on a bomber assembly line. My mother was born at Fort Leavenworth in Kansas. When they left Kansas to go out west to build their lives after the war, they did so with the confidence that Washington would help them reach a secure retirement. That was the promise that FDR made, and it was the promise that Washington kept for decades while folks like my grandparents moved through the ups and downs of life in America's middle class. But today, Washington is not working to preserve this fundamental part of the American dream. A secure retirement is no longer a guarantee for the middle class. All of us know that it's harder to save and it's harder to retire. You see it in your own children, I suspect, that having the bills paid at the end of the month and still have something left over to save is more difficult. The defined benefit retirement plans that so many people counted on aren't always there. I was just talking to the governor, and he informed me that just this past week he got news of approximately 12,000 jobs that are going to be lost here in Ohio, and these are all union jobs, which means that they all provided a pension. That's one of the few areas in American life where you can still count on a pension as opposed to just a 401k. Those jobs are being lost. And if we don't act, the promise of Social Security will grow harder to keep. And that's why I fight every single day to extend the promise of a retirement that's dignified and secure as a United States Senator, and that's why I'm going to fight to make sure that a secure and dignified retirement is there when I'm President of the United States of America. Now, it starts with protecting Social Security today, tomorrow, and forever. The Paynes informed me that about half their current income comes from Social Security. So obviously, they want to make sure that it's there for them, but they've also got 3 wonderful children who they sent through school and are raising their own kids. They want to make sure that Social Security is there for them as well. For millions of Americans, Social Security is the difference between a comfortable retirement and poverty. We have an obligation to secure the future of one of the most successful programs in our history. And that starts with talking straight to the American people about the challenges that lie ahead. And Social Security is strong, but as more baby boomers retire, as our population gets older, that means there are going to be more retirees and fewer workers to support the system. The long-term cash flow needs of the Social Security system are going to have to be addressed if we're going to make sure that Social Security is there for future generations. Now, my opponent in this general election, John McCain, his idea on Social Security amounts to 4 more years of what was attempted and failed under George Bush. He said that he supports private accounts for Social Security, in his words, along the lines that President Bush proposed. Yesterday, he tried to deny that he ever took that position, which leaves us to wonder if he had a change of heart or a change of politics. But let me be clear. Privatizing Social Security was a bad idea when George Bush proposed it. It's a bad idea today. It would eventually cut guaranteed benefits by up to 50%. It would cost $1 trillion that we don't have to implement on the front end, permanently elevating our national debt. And most of all, it would gamble the retirement plans of millions of Americans on the stock market. I mean, imagine if your Social Security right now was tied up with the Dow Jones. How would you feel when you woke up in the morning and you heard that the Dow had gone down 400 points? You wouldn't feel real confident about the stability of your nest egg. And that's why I stood up against this plan in the Senate, and that's why I won't stand for it when I'm president. Now, Senator McCain's campaign went even further a few months ago, suggesting that the best answer to the growing pressure on Social Security might be to cut cost of living adjustments or to raise the retirement age. Now, when Ron and I were talking, they pointed out, as it is, the cost of living adjustment doesn't seem to really keep up with the cost of living. The notion that you would eliminate that means that in a slow, not so hidden way, your benefits are being reduced each and every year, particularly now that we know that inflation is starting to rear its ugly head again with gas prices and food prices, price of prescription drugs all going up. The notion that we'd raise the retirement age, I think if you talk to some of the workers who are unfortunately being laid off, particularly if they're in their late 50s or early 60s, if you've been working in an auto plant for 30 years, the idea that you're going to keep on working until you're 72 or 73, not on your own terms, not because you decide you want to be in the workplace, but because you have to keep food on the table or pay your electricity bills, that I don't think is our best option. I think there's another option that is fairer to working men and women. We have to protect for Social Security for future generations without pushing the burden onto seniors who've earned the right to retire in dignity. So here's what I would do. Here's where I would start. Right now, the Social Security payroll tax is capped. That means that most middle-class families pay the payroll tax on every dime that they earn. But once you get to $102,000 per individual, then you're no longer paying the payroll tax. And what that means is that while most of the people here, paid Social Security on every dime you ever earned, you've got billionaires and millionaires who are paying only a tiny fraction, or paying payroll tax on only a tiny fraction of their income. I've got a friend in Omaha, you may have heard him, named Warren Buffett. He's worth $56 billion. You know, if he's only paying the first 100,000, that is 0.0000001% of his income is he paying Social Security. I may have lost a couple of zeros in there. The point is, it's negligible to him. It's not even noticeable. Now, I think that's why the best way forward is to first look to adjust the cap on the payroll tax so that people like me, because I'm earning more than $102,000, pay a little bit more and people in need are protected. That way we can extend the promise of Social Security without shifting the burden on seniors. And by the way, I think that we should exempt anyone making under $250,000 from this increase. So it will not burden the middle class. Anybody under $250,000 would not be affected whatsoever. 97% of Americans will see absolutely no change in their taxes under my proposal. 97%. But what it does allow us to do is to extend the life of Social Security without cutting benefits or raising the retirement age. Now, there was a time when John McCain thought this wasn't such a bad idea. When he was asked a few years ago whether he could see himself lifting the cap on the payroll tax, he said, I could. But today he's attacking me for holding this very same position. So I'm looking forward, John McCain's proposed a series of debates. I'm looking forward to having them, and when it comes to Social Security, he might want to finish the debate with himself first. Now, even if we keep Social Security strong for future generations, it's not enough to help seniors who are struggling with the cost of everything from gas to groceries, because we know that rising costs are hardest for folks on fixed incomes. And that's why I want to make retirement more secure by eliminating the income tax for retirees who are making less than $50,000 a year. This would completely eliminate income taxes for 7 million seniors. Two of those people are Ron and Jane. Since they retired, they've been spending more and more of their limited income on gas and groceries and healthcare premiums. They told me that they had bought a real tiny car, and they're happy with it, but with gas prices what they are, even that's tough. And they look fit enough to go biking, but at some point you need an automobile. So what we want to do is give people like Ron and Jane some relief. And the tax cut I'm proposing would eliminate income taxes that they pay and save them over $1,400 a year. Now, in contrast, John McCain believes that senior citizens living on modest incomes should continue to pay taxes. In fact, the tax cut for the rich that he's proposed would provide essentially no benefit to the vast majority of senior citizens. I also think it's time to end the outrage of CEOs cashing out while workers lose their pensions, and that's obviously a timely issue here in Ohio. Right now, bankruptcy laws are more focused on protecting banks than they are protecting pensions, and that's how John McCain wants to keep things for another 4 years. He voted against a proposal that would have made the claims of workers and retirees a priority in bankruptcy court, and he opposed a proposal that said companies should not unfairly cut the pension benefits of men and women who've worked their whole lives to earn them. I believe that's not fair. That's not the America that I believe in. I think it's time to stop cutting back the safety net for working people while we protect golden parachutes for the well-off. If you work hard and you play by the rules, then you've earned your pension. You negotiated it. You gave up wages in order to have a more secure future. And if if a company goes bankrupt, workers should be a top priority and not just an afterthought. So as president, I'll limit the circumstances when retirement benefits can be cut and increase the wages and benefits that workers can claim in bankruptcy court. We'll require companies to disclose their pension fund investments. We'll put an end to the outrage of executives getting bonuses while workers watch pensions disappear, and we'll make sure that no American goes bankrupt just because they get sick. Finally, we're not going to help people reach a secure retirement unless we encourage savings. But today, personal savings is at an all-time low as the average American has seen their wages or incomes flatline or even decline at the same time as costs for everything are going up. It's become very difficult to save. In fact, we have a negative savings rate. The average family has about $10,000 in credit card debt that they're having to deal with. 75 million working Americans today don't have the retirement, the employer-based retirement plans that a previous generation counted on. And that's why I've proposed an automatic workplace pension. There's going to be no red tape or complicated forms. Employers will provide a direct deposit of a small percentage of each paycheck into your account. You can add to it or you can opt out of it at any time. So it's going to be optional, but Ron, we were discussing the fact that had it not been for the United Methodist Church requiring that a small percentage of Ron's paycheck go into his retirement account, he would not have the same pension that he and Jane now rely on. And employers will have an easy opportunity to match employee savings. If you switch jobs, your savings will roll over into your new employer system. If you become self-employed, you'll be able to control your account. Studies show that about 80% of Americans will enroll if given the option to pursue our type of plan. And we'll also help middle-class families start their own nest egg by matching 50% of the first $1,000 saved, a match that will be directly deposited into your savings account, a tax cut that will truly encourage savings, investment, and wealth creation. These steps will put a secure retirement within the reach of millions of Americans. So let me just conclude by saying this. Since the New Deal, we've had a basic understanding in America that if you work hard and you pay into the system, you've earned the right to a secure retirement. That's the promise that was kept for Michelle's parents, for so many families here in Ohio and across the country. That's the promise that was kept for my grandmother. As Michelle said, my grandmother, she's now 85. She's living in Hawaii. I keep on trying to convince her to come live with us, and for some reason she would rather live in Hawaii. I don't know what she's thinking. And you know what she's thinking. Well, you got that Hawaiian shirt on, so but some of you may have heard when I won the Democratic nomination on a couple of weeks ago, the one person who was watching who couldn't travel to see me was my grandmother, because she has osteoporosis. She helped raise me. If it hadn't been for her, I would not have had the opportunities that I had, because I was raised by a single mom, and so she was there along with my grandfather as a foundation for us as we were growing up. She was able to have a secure retirement because of Social Security and because of the pension through her job. She is not a burden. She continues to be a source of joy and a source of inspiration. And when we go visit her, you know, my grandchildren have my children have a chance to know their great grandmother and to hear the stories of her life and my grandfather's life and my mother, who passed away. And so knowing she's secure is so important to me, and it's so important to, I think, this country, that we know that each generation is giving something back and getting something back in return. That's what America's all about, us looking out for each other. If we keep the promise today that has been made, we're not just valuing work and workers, we'll be keeping our businesses and our economy strong for the next generation. I think that's a future that's worth fighting for, and with your help, that's what I intend to do when I'm President of the United States of America. So, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.